Welcome back to WiDHiD Game Audio. In today's episode, we're going to be integrating Wise's Stinger system into Unreal Engine 4 in order to really emphasize some key events in your video game with audio. Now, I've already covered stingers in a previous episode when working with Unity, and the great thing is, all of the things I did in Wise for that video will be identical to what I use for Unreal Engine. So pause this video, grab the link to episode 3 of my Unity series, and watch that until the 10-minute 55-second mark. Then I'll see you right back here to integrate Wise into your Unreal Engine project.
What I did, now things done. With the game audio.
Before we get started, feel free to make yourself a map or grab one off of the Unreal Engine Marketplace. This map is the default map from the Soul Cave Asset Pack made by Epic Games. Not only is this a beautiful map, but it also comes with some amazing ambiance sound effects that help to really bring realism to our project. Now the first thing we're going to want the player to do is walk up to this barrier up here, hit a trigger, then have a little swell occur. This will help us anticipate an impact point that's about to occur. After about 5 seconds and a few clock ticking sounds later, we're going to hear an impact sound and the barrier will disappear, giving us access to the next room. Here's how we do that. Before you do anything with Wise integrations, always remember to generate your sound data by going into the Build dropdown and selecting Generate Sound Data. With that taken care of, we're first going to play the silence that we made in Wise. Make yourself a blueprint and make it an actor class. I'm going to name mine Play Silence _ Blueprint. Then quickly drag your newly made blueprint into your scene. Now double click on the Play Silence blueprints and head into the Event Graph tab. We're going to delete everything that's in here except for the Event Begin Play, because we want this blueprint to trigger right when the map is loaded. Chain the Event Begin Play to a post event. We're going to post our Play Silence AK event, then we're going to drag our actor to get player character. This makes sure that the silence is quote-unquote heard by the player. That was a quick and easy one. Hit compile on this blueprint, then head back to your main editor. The next thing we need to do is set up our barrier to recognize our player's presence in front of it before triggering all of our swells and impacts. To do that, we're going to drag in a box trigger, naming it Open Barrier, and resizing it so that it's a decent amount away from the barrier. Plenty enough room for the player to stand near it, but not requiring the player to be right up against it to set the trigger. In your Open Barrier description, hit the Blueprint Add Script button. Leave everything as their default values and hit Select. When the blueprint opens up, go to the Event Graph. This time, delete everything but the Event Actor Begin overlap, because we only want this event to go off when the player overlaps with a trigger. Chain the event to a Cast to Character so that the trigger is only looking for characters that pass through it, which is going to be us in this case. Make sure that you also connect the event's other actor with the cast's object. Now we're going to make a new Boolean variable named SceneComplete. This blueprint is basically going to check to see if this scene has already been executed. If it hasn't, play the scene. If it has, then don't play the scene again. So drag in our SceneComplete variable and select Get Scene Complete. Then chain off that towards a branch. This is what's checking to see if our Boolean is true or false. Make sure to connect the cast of characters to the branch as well. Now we're going to start our swell sound. Chain the branch's false node to a post event. Have it post the trigger swell AK event. Then you're going to head back to the cast of character, grab the as character from the blue dot, and connect it to post event's actor. As a rule of thumb, you'll usually be posting these sort of events on the player. Great! Now the swell is starting. Before we lead to our impact, we created a clock ticking sound in Wise, and I'm going to have it play 5 times before finally hitting our impact. So we'll need to loop the clock ticking sound 5 times before switching to the impact trigger. First thing we're going to do is make a new variable, this time making it an integer variable. We're going to name it clock count. Drag clock count into your graph and have it get clock count. Then we're going to change that to an integer less than integer function. Change the lower number to 5. Then change that integer less than integer function to a branch. And of course, connect the post event's white arrow to the branch as well. Basically, we're checking to see if the clock count is less than 5, and if it is, we'll play the clock ticking sound. So let's do that. Using the branch's true node, connect to another post event. This one is going to post the play clock AK event, and we're going to use the cast a character as the actor just like before. Now before we play this clock sound again, we're going to do two more things. First thing, we're going to add a 1 second delay, so chain the post event to a delay function. And the second thing, we're going to drag in our clock count again and get clock count. Then connecting to that, we're going to do an integer plus integer function. This function will be adding 1 to our current clock count. Now all we need to do is set this as our new clock count, chain the integer plus integer to a set clock count. The last thing we need to do is change the delay to the set clock count, then chain the set clock count all the way back to the beginning of the branch. So that's all set up. We'll play our clock, delay for a second, then we'll set our clock count as 1 higher and check to see if our clock count is below 5 again. Once the clock count is finally 5, then we're going to make our barrier disappear and play our impact event. Playing the impact event is easy, but how are we going to make our barrier disappear? Well, first, our blueprint needs to find our barrier. So we're going to make a new variable, and this time it's going to be a static mesh actor, which is what our barrier is. I'm going to name the variable barrier, then I'm going to hit this eyeball icon so that we'll be able to edit this variable outside of this blueprint. We'll set the barrier in a little bit, but for now, we're almost done with this blueprint. First thing we're going to do is drag the barrier variable into our event graph and get barrier. Now chain this variable to a set visibility. When you add this into your event graph, it'll come with a get static mesh component as well. By default, the set visibility will have the barrier be set to invisible, which is what we want, so leave it alone. Now just because the barrier is invisible doesn't mean it can't be collided with. If we left this as is, the player will run into an invisible wall, and we don't want that. We need to disable the barrier's collision. To do this, chain the set visibility to a set collision enabled. Then make sure that the collision's new type is set to no collision and the barrier's static mesh component is set to its target. Now make sure to connect the false node of your branch to the set visibility function. We're so close. Just a couple more things. Chain the set collision enabled to a post event. Set it to the trigger impact AK event, and finally set the actor to the cast character. And last thing, chain your post event to a set scene complete. Make sure to check the checkbox. And that's it with the blueprint. Make sure to compile your blueprint and head back into your editor. Remember how we made a public barrier variable? Well, now we need to set it. So now in your description for your open barrier blueprint, you can now drag in your barrier mesh actor. And that's it. Let's test it all out. This last part is easy, especially in comparison to the previous part. All we're going to do is play our room discovery trigger from part 1 of our Wwise project. In this case, the goal is for our player to go up this pathway and make sure they know the importance of this grand shrine at the top here. So once they reach a certain point, we're going to play our jingle. So make yourself a new box trigger, ensuring that you put it in a location that the player has to pass through. These large pillars seem pretty good to me. Once you've made your box trigger, do the same thing you did with your last box trigger. Hit the Blueprint Add Script blue button, hit Select on the next screen, then head to the event graph. Delete everything but Event Begin Actor Overlap. Chain this to a cast a character and make sure both the arrow and the other actor blue dot are connected to the cast. Now we're going to make another scene complete boolean, which has the same function as the last one, checking to see if this scene is complete or not and ensuring it doesn't repeat. Drag the new variable into your event graph and get scene complete. Then chain that to a branch. Connect your cast a character to the branch as well. Connect your branch's false node to a post event. Have it post the trigger room discovery AK event, then chain the actor to the casted characters as character. Then all we have to do is set scene complete to true. And that's it. Nothing much to that. Compile your blueprints and let's test it out. That's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Check out the Google Doc below for reference material that was used in researching this video. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, compose a comment below or message me on my Twitter @KaraComposer. This video series is driven by community support, so if there's something you would like to see in a future video, whether it be a specific topic or using a platform other than Unreal Engine and Wwise, do not be afraid to ask. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next video.